Jim Hanson's a former U.S. Army Special Forces and the Middle East Forum's chief strategist. Jim, the fact that pretty soon we're going to have 3 carriers in theater, what kind of firepower does that bring to the table?
How much firepower is there, Jesse? I can't do the math on that. I don't even want to be the guys who have to. It makes the point that no matter where the Ayatollahs and the IRGC and their terrorists and their secret police are, they're going to feel the pain. You know, there's persistent surveillance drones above them. There's the jamming aircraft you mentioned. And even more so, the people are turning on them and now becoming informants. You know, whereas before they were the Stasi, Gestapo, secret police, you know, informing on everybody. Now that's going the other direction. So whenever someone sees their, you know, regime members, they can tell Mossad or CIA or somebody else, and bad things happen to them. It's a much better time to be us than them.
All right, so you're saying assets in the Capitol are ratting out the people that used to run the regime to Mossad and CIA?
Of course they are. At this point, I'm sure some of the regime leaders are turning. You know, there's no future for anybody there. And the ones who are left have to decide, do you want to be the last dead ender to die in a pile of smoldering rubble like they made out of Khamenei's tunnel complex? Or do you want to be the guy who gets to get out while the getting's good? You know, there's no good finish for them in this one. And I think it's time for them to realize that and give the president the unconditional surrender he's demanded.
I mean, we're pretty fast approaching the point where there's not going to be much offensive capability left. Yesterday, they fired only 8 missiles. 8, Jim, 8. That's not going to cut it. How long do you think they can hold on for?
Well, once they get rid of the actual conventional threats, they still have a lot of asymmetric ways they can cause major trouble. You know, the Straits of Hormuz could be shut down by sinking some tankers or something like that, even their own. You know, there's terrorist opportunities to do things. There are a lot of ways they can still fight and still cause trouble. So we wouldn't want to minimize that and pretend that's not a threat. But there's a big difference between that and actual state power, which they are losing rapidly and which should give the Iranian people a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, I mean, you get probably to a certain point where they're not thinking about beyond their borders. They're trying to consolidate whatever power they have left inside because it's about to get pretty hairy. The president says unconditional surrender. I think we'll know when we hear them cry uncle. What do you think that's going to look like?